All right, buckle up, everybody. We're going deep on open educational resources today.
Sounds exciting.
We are. Specifically, we're going to be looking at something called Symmetry Block.
Okay.
I've got a page pulled up here from the Open Educational Resources / Open Source Physics at Singapore website.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just about the app. It's like a whole network of these projects linked here.
Yeah, that's one of the really cool things about this movement toward open educational resources.
Right. Like, it gives you a sense of the scope.
Yeah, you can kind of start down a rabbit hole,
Oh, absolutely.
clicking links and finding all these cool things.
So, Symmetry Block. What is it? Well, the page says it's for exploring line symmetry.
Right.
But they've turned it into like a whole app. You can download it on your phone. It uses blocks, like actual blocks.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I think that's pretty clever, actually.
Yeah.
Because symmetry, especially when you're learning it, it's kind of an abstract concept.
Totally. When you're first introduced to it, it's like, what does that even mean?
Right.
But if you can visualize it
Exactly.
and manipulate it,
It becomes more tangible.
Yeah. It's like those manipulatives we all used in school.
Yes.
You know, like the
blocks and the
blocks and the counters.
Exactly, but like a digital
A
version.
digital version, yeah.
Have you seen these kind of things used in a classroom setting? Like, do they actually make a difference?
Yeah, I have. It's really interesting to see how students respond to them.
Especially for those who maybe don't, connect with traditional math instruction.
Especially visual learners.
Yeah.
You know, being able to actually see the symmetry and manipulate the blocks.
It can really click,
It makes a huge difference.
So there's this other thing I wanted to point out.
Yeah.
The page mentions an embed feature.
Embed.
And they give you a snippet of code to put the symmetry block simulation like directly onto a web page.
Okay.
Using something called an iframe.
An iframe. Yeah. That's basically a way to embed content from one website into another.
Right. And I think for a lot of our listeners, that's probably pretty obvious. But just in case anyone's not familiar.
Right. It's good to clarify.
I thought it was worth mentioning.
Definitely.
So you can imagine like a teacher integrating this into their lessons.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's super valuable in a classroom setting.
Making it interactive.
Instead of just having kids read about symmetry in a textbook.
They can actually play with it.
Exactly.
Okay, but get this.
Right.
You scroll down to the bottom of the page, and there's this long list of links. It's like they're saying, hey, if you like Symmetry Block, check out all this other cool stuff.
Right.
Like they're just inviting you to explore further.
Yeah, and the popular tags section is interesting, too.
Oh, right.
You can see the range of topics they're covering.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just physics. It's like equations and inequalities, fractions of a whole, sound.
Yeah, electricity and magnetism.
The breadth is impressive.
I know. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It makes you wonder, could these platforms become like a central hub for science and math education?
Right. Like a one-stop shop.
And one-stop shop for learning, yeah.
Some of these titles are pretty intriguing, too.
Oh, yeah. Which ones catch your eye?
Well, there's one called Math Battle, Add or Multiply.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Right. And then Amazing Pendulum Wave Effect.
Ooh, that's got to be visually appealing.
I'm already picturing it in my head.
Yeah, some mesmerizing physics in action.
Right. But like with so many resources, where do you even begin?
It's exciting, but also a bit daunting.
It is. It really is.
You know, how do you navigate all of this? How do you know what's good?
Right. Like, how do you even find the right resource for what you're looking for?
There's definitely a need for some kind of curation or organization.
Yeah.
Maybe robust search filters or user reviews.
Maybe even personalized recommendations,
Oh, that would be amazing.
Right. But then part of the appeal is also that sense of exploration.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you're just wandering through a library and you stumble upon something unexpected.
Like, oh, what's this? I've never seen this before.
Exactly.
That's a great analogy.
So speaking of reaching a wider audience,
Yeah.
the Symmetry Block app, it's available in multiple languages.
Oh, it's great.
The page has this whole table, listing all the different translations.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. But, it makes you wonder,
What's that?
do the translations actually convey, like, the nuances of the concept?
That's a really good point.
Right.
Accurate translations are crucial when it comes to educational materials.
Especially something as, like, precise as math and physics.
Exactly. You don't want any misunderstandings
No, not at all.
because of language barriers.
It's not just about translating the words, it's about making sure the concept is actually understood.
Right. And that it's presented in a way that's culturally sensitive too.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other layer.
It is. It is.
This page doesn't really go into their translation process.
That's interesting.
But I'm kind of curious to know how they ensure the quality.
Yeah, me too.
And the accuracy, you know?
It would be interesting to learn more about that.
Definitely.
One of the things I'm always thinking about with these open resources is the long-term impact. Do they actually level the playing field in education?
Right.
Or are there still barriers to access for certain communities?
That's a big question, and I think that's something we could probably explore further, you know?
Absolutely. It's worth digging into.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there.
There is. There is.
So out of all this, what really stands out to you? Like, what do you think our listeners should kind of take away from this initial look at Symmetry Block?
Well, I think what's fascinating is how this one page has opened up this whole larger conversation.
Right. We went from talking about an app to, like, the potential of open resources to transform education.
Exactly. On a global scale, no less.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
There are definitely a lot of questions to consider, but there's no doubt that these resources have incredible power to make learning more accessible, more equitable.
More engaging.
Yeah, and ultimately more effective.
I think that's a great place to leave it for now.
I agree. There's much more to explore, though.
Oh, absolutely.
But we'll save that for another time.
Sounds good to me.
It's like we found this key that unlocks a whole new way of thinking about education.
Yeah.
We're moving away from that old, static textbook model toward something way more dynamic and interactive and personalized.
And it's not just about making things fun and engaging, although that's a plus.
Of course.
But there's actual, real pedagogical value here.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Think about the way Symmetry Block uses that visual, hands-on approach. That can be a total game changer for students who struggle with those abstract concepts.
Right. Or those who learn best by doing.
Exactly. It's about giving them multiple pathways to understanding.
It's giving students the tools to, be active participants in their own learning.
Yes.
Instead of just, passively absorbing information.
Right. They're exploring, experimenting, making discoveries.
I remember when I was learning about symmetry, it just felt like a bunch of rules to memorize.
I hear you.
But if I'd had something like Symmetry Block, I think it would have clicked way faster.
That's what's so important,
Yeah.
Making those connections between the abstract concepts and real-world applications.
Symmetry is everywhere.
It is. You see it in nature, in art, in architecture.
Exactly. If you can make those connections early on, learning becomes so much more meaningful.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential benefits.
Right.
But let's be real for a second.
Okay.
Are there any downsides? Are there risks to relying on these open educational resources?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
One concern is quality control.
Right, because these resources are often created by individuals or small teams, right?
Exactly. So the level of rigor and accuracy, it can vary.
It's not like a textbook that's been vetted by, a whole team of experts.
Yeah.
So we can't just assume that everything we find online is going to be accurate and reliable.
Exactly. You got to have a critical eye. Evaluate these resources carefully, look for peer review, check the author's credentials.
What about keeping them updated? Science is constantly evolving, so how do we make sure these resources keep pace?
That's a big challenge. It really requires a community effort. Open educational resources, they thrive on collaboration.
Right.
Ongoing contributions from educators, researchers, developers.
So it's an iterative process.
It is. The best resources are the ones that are regularly updated and refined.
Based on feedback and new research.
Exactly.
It's like a living textbook.
Yes. A living, breathing textbook.
But that means there needs to be a system in place to manage those updates, right?
Oh, for sure.
To ensure that quality control.
Absolutely. We need robust platforms, clear licensing frameworks, funding models.
That can support them long term.
Yes, it's not just about creating them. It's about making sure they're sustainable.
Accessible, discoverable. So it sounds like there's a lot of potential here, but also some challenges.
Definitely. But the potential benefits are huge.
Right.
Imagine a world where every student, regardless of their background or location, has access to these high-quality materials.
It's a pretty inspiring vision.
It is. It is.
And who knows, maybe some of our listeners are already using these resources or even creating them.
Maybe. If you are, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, share your experiences with us.
We can all learn from each other. That's what this whole movement is about.
Breaking down those traditional barriers, creating a more collaborative and inclusive learning environment.
Exactly.
It feels like we've just scratched the surface here.
Okay.
There's so much more to talk about when it comes to the future of education.
Right.
And the role that technology plays. We've talked about some of the benefits of open educational resources.
Accessibility, engagement, personalization.
But there are also those big questions around quality control and keeping things updated.
Yeah, sustainability, bridging the digital divide.
This deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
I'm curious, what do you think are some key steps we need to take as a society?
To really harness the power of these resources.
Yeah, to make them a truly transformative force.
Well, I think it starts with fostering a culture of collaboration.
Okay.
Encouraging educators and researchers and developers to work together, create and curate high-quality resources.
And that means investing in the infrastructure to support those efforts.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
We need those robust platforms, clear licensing frameworks, funding models.
That can support the creation of these resources over the long term.
It's not just about creating them, it's about making sure they're sustainable.
Accessible, discoverable.
Exactly.
We also need to make sure that educators know how to use these resources effectively.
Right.
Give them the training and support they need.
Professional development opportunities.
Yeah.
Foster a community of practice.
It's about a shift in mindset, really.
For both educators and students.
Yeah, we need to move away from this idea that learning is just about, passively consuming information.
Right. Embrace the idea that it's an active process.
Exploration, experimentation.
Creation.
And that's where things like Symmetry Block can be so valuable.
Yeah.
They can serve as a model,
For making learning more engaging and interactive.
Personalized.
Absolutely.
So for our listener who's been with us on this whole journey, what's the one thing you hope they take away from this conversation?
I hope they come away with a sense of possibility.
Okay.
A renewed appreciation for the power of learning.
The world of knowledge is at our fingertips.
It really is.
And open educational resources can help us unlock that potential.
They're the key.
It's an invitation to explore, be curious.
Never stop learning.
And who knows? Maybe one of our listeners will be the one to create the next groundbreaking educational tool.
That changes the way we learn.
That would be amazing.
It would.
Well, on that note of inspiration,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap up our deep dive for today.
But the conversation doesn't end here.
Right.
Keep exploring the world of open educational resources.
Share your discoveries and insights with us.
We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Yes, thank you.
And until next time, keep that thirst for knowledge burning bright.